meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion, as we know it, is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. We are doing the Law of One series, and something that's very near and dear to my heart, certainly something I love and I think is important in the big picture. For those that maybe aren't sure, maybe those that are kind of new to it, I do recommend you kind of go back into the older episodes. But yeah, I mean, if you're just coming to this right now, then so be it. You'll see what you think. If you like it, you might want to go back to the first beginning sessions. You're going to learn a lot of information. I think I've shared a lot in these teachings and these learnings that I've been doing with you guys. We've got sessions 49 and 50 today. 49, a few cool things. It's funny, by the way, there's a section that I was desperately trying to find again that I lost. Like, it was just so beautifully stated. And I literally went through all the material twice, and I'm like, why can't I find this stupid paragraph? Sometimes things are supposed to be the way they are. Whatever the case is, if I see it today, I will definitely stop it, or I'll at least write down the number. That said, the poles draw. So the negative pole is what draws in experience. The experience that we experience goes through the negative. From the negative pole, which is where our root chakra is. This is kind of important to understand in that the first thing that reacts to stuff is your fight or flight kind of part of your body, and then it starts to go through your yellow, orange, and if you've got your green chakra turned on, your heart chakra, then it has additional stuff, but it filters through your lower chakras. And if you haven't turned on some of the higher chakras or some of the other chakras, then you're not necessarily playing with the full deck. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're coming at this with limited tools, if you will. And so it's important to understand that things come in through that lower root chakra. And this is why I always talk about clearing out a lot of the beliefs, clearing out a lot of the nonsense that doesn't need to be there. And that really is in some of those lower areas of our beliefs, chakras, all that stuff's kind of down in the lower areas. And so it is, I think, why it's important that we kind of, open up our awareness, open up our beliefs, like I've talked about, like trying to, get rid of a belief and then sort of rebuild it again. It's something I've done recently, and I kind of still think that's sort of a good way to go at it. But it's just good to understand that the negative pole pulls in from the lower areas, and then what's sent out, if you will, or our connection straight to source is actually on our upper part, the positive part. And it's not positive negative as in good or bad, but positive negative as in poles of a battery or, electrical current. So they do talk a lot about this, and it's super cool how they do it. So again, the creator's the North Pole. And then they get into meditation versus prayer, which I actually think is a really good discussion. A lot of people wonder, what's the proper way to meditate? Again, I think it's very important to find your own way. I mean, there's certainly techniques, but I've learned through books. I've found books based off of what I was interested in and who I am as an individual. And so these books became, I found them, right? Or they found me, or we found each other. And so my books may not be the best books for you, And so that's why we've all got to kind of put out to universe, hey, this is something I'm interested in. And then, see what you see. Or even just do a search and see what pops up and what resonates with you. And you'll be surprised, but you'll find the proper way for you. And it may not be the way I went. So we get into meditation and prayer, and it's super cool. I think because both are awesome, but they're different. And they're both two forms kind of meditation, without a doubt. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. And then, of course, session 50, we'll talk more about as we get in there. But all said, welcome everybody that's here with us thus far. And here's we will kick off session 49, and it is, of course, the Law of One material. Oh, Pat, thank you, brother. $5, I appreciate you. Thank you, Dan. I love this show and the material. Pat, I love you. Pat's one of the ones out there. There's actually a couple. Sheila too. Some of my super advanced studiers. They get ahead. They're like always reading ahead. They're awesome. There might be some others of you. I'm not trying to besmirch anybody out there by any chance, but it's I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. And again, thank a lot of you guys. Jude, A-Score, Ruwalt, Patriots, Daryl, September, Tattoo Tammy. Sheila, of course, I talked about. Pet, I think. You got a question. I know we'll get to that here in a little while. All that said, I think that's pretty much everyone in a nutshell. All said, here is session 49, Ra on the Fringe. The Law of One, session 49, recorded April 27th, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, would you please first give us a reading on the instrument's condition? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Questioner, thank you. I have a question here from Jim first. He says, for the past 9 years, I have had what I call frontal lobe experiences in the pre-consciousness state of sleep just before I wake up in the morning. They are a combination of pleasure and pressure, which begins in the frontal lobes and spreads and pulses through the whole brain and feels like an orgasm in my brain. I have had over 200 of these experiences, and often they are accompanied by visions and voices which seldom make much sense to me. What is the source of these frontal lobe experiences? Ra, I am Ra. We scan the questioner and find some pertinent information already available which regards the physiological disposition of this particular part of the brain. The experiences described and experienced are those distillations which may be experienced after a concentration of effort upon the opening of the gateway or indigo mind complex, so that experience of a sacramental or violet ray may occur. These experiences are the beginnings of that which, as the body, the mind, and the spirit become integrated at the gateway or indigo level, may then yield not only the experience of joy, but the comprehension of intelligent infinity which accompanies it. Thus, the body complex orgasm and mind complex orgasm become integrated, may then set forth the proper gateway for the spiritual complex integration and its use as a shuttle for the sacrament of the fully experienced presence of the one infinite creator. Thus, there is much to which the questioner may look forward. Questioner, to Jim, do you have any additions to that question? To Jim, okay. To Ra, I was wondering, in a previous session you had mentioned that left and right ear tones, if the left and the right brain were somehow related to the polarities of service to self and service to others. Could you comment on this? Ra, I am Ra. We may comment on this. Questioner, well, please, will you go ahead and comment on it? Ra, I am Ra. The lobes of your physical complex brain are alike in their use of weak electrical energy. The entity ruled by intuition and impulse is equal to the entity governed by rational analysis when polarity is considered. The lobes may both be used for service to self or service to others. It may seem that the rationale or analytical mind might have more of a possibility of successfully pursuing the negative orientation due to the fact that, in our understanding, too much order is by its essence negative. However, this same ability to structure abstract concepts and to analyze experiential data may be the key to rapid positive polarization. It may be said that those whose analytical capacities are predominant have somewhat more to work with in polarizing. The function of intuition is to inform intelligence. In your illusion, the unbridled predominance of intuition will tend to keep an entity from the greater polarization due to the vagaries of intuitive perception. As you may see, these two types of brain structure need to be balanced in order that the net sum of experiential catalyst will be polarization and illumination. For without the acceptance by the rational mind of the worth of the intuitive faculty, the creative aspects which aid in illumination will be stifled. There is one correspondence between right and left and positive and negative. The web of energy which surrounds your bodies contains somewhat complex polarizations. The left area of the head and upper shoulders is most generally seen to be of a negative polarization, whereas the right is of positive polarization, magnetically speaking. This is the cause of the tone's meaning for you. Questioner: will you expand on the positive and negative magnetic polarizations in general, and how it applies to, say, individuals and planets, etc.? I think there is a correlation here, but I am not sure. Ra: I am Ra. It is correct that there is a correlation between the energy field of an entity of your nature and planetary bodies. For all material is constructed by means of the dynamic tensions of the magnetic field. The lines of force in both cases may be seen to be much like the interweaving spirals of the braided hair. Thus, positive and negative wind and interweave, forming geometric relationships in the energy fields of both persons, as you would call a mind-body-spirit complex, and planets. The negative pole is the south pole or the lower pole. The north or upper pole is positive. The crisscrossing of these spiraling energies from primary, secondary, and tertiary energy centers. You are familiar with the primary energy centers of the physical, mental, and spiritual body complex. Secondary points of the crisscrossing of positive and negative center orientation revolve about the several of your centers. The yellow ray center may be seen to have secondary energy centers in elbow, in knee, and in subtle bodies at a slight spacing from the physical vehicle at points describing diamonds about the entity's navel area surrounding the body. One may examine each of the energy centers for such secondary centers. Some of your peoples work with these energy centers, and you call this acupuncture. However, it is to be noted that there are most often anomalies in the placement of the energy centers, so that the scientific precision of this practice is brought into question. Like most scientific attempts at precision, it fails to take into account the unique qualities of each creation. The most important concept to grasp about the energy field is that the lower or negative pole will draw the universal energies into itself from the cosmos. Therefore, it will move upward to be met and reacted to by the positive spiraling energies moving downward from within. The measure of an entity's level of ray activity is the locus wherein the South Pole outer energy has been met by the inner spiraling positive energy. As an entity grows more polarized, this locus will move upwards. This phenomenon has been called by your peoples the Kundalini. However, it may be better be thought of as the meeting place of cosmic and inner, shall we say, vibratory understanding. The attempt to raise the locus of this meeting without realizing the metaphysical principles of magnetism upon which this depends is to invite great imbalance. Questioner: what process would be the recommended process for correctly awakening, as they say, the Kundalini, and of what value would that be? Ra: I am Ra. The metaphor of the coiled serpent being called upwards is vastly appropriate for consideration by your peoples. This is what you are attempting when you seek. There are, as we have stated, great misapprehensions concerning this metaphor and the nature of pursuing its goal. We must generalize and ask that you grasp the fact that this, in effect, renders far less useful that which we share. However, as each entity is unique, generalities are our lot when communicating for your possible edification. We have two types of energy. We are attempting then, as entities in any true color of this octave, to move the meeting place of inner and outer natures further and further along or upward along the energy centers. The two methods of approaching this with sensible method are, first, the seating within oneself of those experiences which are attracted to the entity through the South Pole. Each experience will need to be observed, experienced, balanced, accepted, and seated within the individual. As the entity grows in self-acceptance and awareness of catalyst, the location of the comfortable seating of these experiences will rise to new true color entity. The experience, whatever it may be, will be seated in the red ray and considered as to its survival content, and so forth. Each experience will be sequentially understood by the growing and seeking mind-body-spirit complex in terms of survival, then in terms of personal identity, then in terms of social relations, then in terms of universal love, then in terms of how the experience may beget free communication, then in terms of how the experience may be linked to universal energies, and finally, in terms of the sacramental nature of each experience. Meanwhile, the Creator lies within. In the North Pole, the crown is already upon the head, and the entity is potentially a god. This energy is brought into being by the humble and trusting acceptance of this energy through meditation and contemplation of the self and of the Creator. Where these energies meet is where the serpent will have achieved its height. When this uncoiled energy approaches universal love and radiant being, the entity is in a state whereby the harvestability of the entity comes nigh. Questioner, will you recommend a technique of meditation? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, is it better, or shall I say, does it produce more usable results in meditation to leave the mind, shall I say, as blank as possible, let it run down, so to speak, or is it better to focus in meditation on some object or something for concentration? Ra, I am Ra. This shall be the last full query of this work time. Each of the two types of meditation is useful for a particular reason. The passive meditation involving the clearing of the mind, the emptying of the mental jumble which is characteristic of mind-complex activity among your peoples, is efficacious for those whose goal is to achieve an inner silence as a base from which to listen to the Creator. This is a useful and helpful tool, and is by far most generally a useful type of meditation as opposed to contemplation or prayer. The type of meditation which may be called visualization has at its goal not that which is contained in the meditation itself. Visualization is the tool of the adept. Those who learn to hold visual images in mind are developing an inner concentrative power that can transcend boredom and discomfort. When this ability has become crystallized in an adept, the adept may then do polarizing in consciousness without external action, which can affect the planetary consciousness. This is the reason for existence of the so-called white magician. Only those wishing to pursue the conscious raising of planetary vibration will find visualization to be a particularly satisfying type of meditation. Contemplation, or the consideration in a meditative state of an inspiring image or text, is extremely useful also among your peoples, and the faculty of will called praying is also of potentially helpful nature. Whether it is indeed a helpful activity depends quite totally upon the intentions and objects of the one who prays. May we ask if there are any brief queries at this time? Questioner, I will just ask if there is anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact, and if the 2 periods per week are still appropriate. Ra, I am Ra. We request your care in the placement of the neck support for this entity, as it is too often careless. You are conscientious and your alignments are well. The timing, if we may use that expression, of the sessions is basically correct. However, you are to be commended for observing fatigue in the circle and refraining from a working until all were in love, harmony, and vital energy as one being. This is and will continue to be most helpful. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator, Adonai. Heck yeah, right? So I finally did find the section too, by the way. They just did cover it. But we'll start off with the notes I've got, and then the questions, we'll get to those next. Agreement before life. So the I'm getting ahead of myself here. Sorry, energies. The way they move up and down, we had the indigo energy they were talking about specifically, and that's where we connect from the higher side, right? So the lower side we're sucking in, and that goes through your root chakra. They spend a bunch of time talking about that. That's the red ray. But there's also the top-down section, and they're talking about kind of the violet ray specifically, which is, now the reason indigo instead of violet is, first off, violet is the crown, your top chakra, which I think is more kind of associated with your pineal gland, frankly. And again, they talk about shape, not necessarily being the pyramid or mattering, but the pineal gland is certainly a part of that. But certainly the indigo ray, which is more of your third eye, we frequently call it. And a lot of us are sort of taking in information from up here. And we might feel, even during meditation and other experiences, we might feel heat and activity up here. And it's because of that. It's because you're literally receiving information from source, higher self, intelligent infinity, they'd call it. So be aware of that. That's likely going to happen to many of you. Energies, they move up and down. So you're pulling energies in, like the experience of life, if you will. Like you're sucking that in, kind of. And if life's not going well, you could be in more of a fight or flight kind of experience, right? That's going to be pulling in through that root chakra. If everything's groovy and your root chakra is kind of balanced, then it's going to kind of start to flow up even higher. And you'll start to experience life from I don't want to say more fuller, but kind of like from a more chakras activated standpoint. And life will start to take on new meanings, like people that have had children. You totally know the way that changes your life, right? That kicks you into a green ray typically. Sometimes you can stay stuck down in the yellow-orange ray. That's where you get more into manipulation, control of child. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. But from a standard, most of us kind of standpoint, you're going to be just instantly in love. This point, like I found something that was more important than anything I ever thought I was. Right, this separation from self. That's really, truly what that fourth density is being able to step away from self. Like, there's this concept of outside of self that matters too. And so it's very powerful in the concept of us waking up, expanding, or in the case of most of us, just awakening within who we actually are. Know thyself, right? Like, just a lot of us are coming to terms with the fact that we seem a little odd from some of the others around us. And sometimes that's not easy to deal with. So, yeah, this kind of leads into this one. Accept who we are. You are exactly as you're supposed to be. There's a lot of people that say we should be or do or think or whatever a certain way. One of the things that's challenging about being in a league of your own is that other people aren't necessarily going to see things the same way you do. And you've got to have that conviction and strength and understanding that I think have a pretty solid thing that needs to be spoken here. You don't have to agree, but I think it needs to be said. I think the truth needs to come out. This is when that blue ray is really starting to happen. When you can just be open and honest. So again, these upper chakras, as I call them, because that's really what they are, these upper chakras are truly helping set your higher density level stuff. Like, I mean, like when you're here, you're not just here on a physical level. That's your lower chakras. The upper chakras are like, no, I'm actually here to make a difference. I'm here to change things. I'm here to do more. I'm here to be a part of this in a way that causes others to see and believe and understand or whatever. And then the thing I lost right here, I thought it was pretty cool. Whoops. Oh, I hope it didn't go away. 49.6 is where it is. Right here. Cool. This is the densities. So before it, they're talking about the two types of energies we're attempting as entities, true colors of this octave. To move the meeting place of inner and outer nature further and further along or upward along the energy centers. Two methods of approaching this with sensible method are first, the seating within one's own self or oneself of those experiences, right? So it talks about the poles, and it talks about the way experience is going to happen. So the experience, whatever it may be, will be seated in red ray when it's coming in through that negative, it's coming in through the bottom, if you will. It's kind of like life. It's life. It's what you've sent out is what comes back, and what comes back is what's kind of sucking up through your red ray first, right? And they talk about how each experience will be sequentially understood by the growing and seeking mind-body-spirit complex in terms of survival. That's red ray. Then, next, if your red ray is groovy and in balance, it next will go in terms of personal identity. This is your yellow ray. If that's in balance, then in your terms of social relations, that's your orange ray. Again, power over others versus power in general. A lot of times we experience power through, if we're not service to self, we'll experience it like, in technology, like a fast car or something weird like that. Then in terms of universal love, which is the green ray energy, that's your fourth density. Then, assuming you got these all cleared out, then in terms of how the experience may beget free communication. Free communication is no lies. That's your fifth density. That's your blue ray chakra, oftentimes associated with the throat, speaking the truth. Your sixth, which they're getting into, then in terms of how the experience may be linked to universal energies. And that's that God concept, that's that source concept, that's that idea that we're part of something much larger. And finally, in terms of the sacramental nature of each experience, understanding that God's or source or higher self has put this into our lives for purpose. When you understand those 7 layers, those 7 densities, and you've got them kind of all dialed in and sweet, well then there's no concerns, there's no problems. Everything's going to be, seriously, everything's going to be groovy. You'll be surprised what you'll notice in your life. But if any of these areas are not synced up, it kind of gets blocked at those points. And it'll diffuse out, and it'll create sickness, it'll create odd experiences in life. It'll create a number of things. And they'll be in relation to the chakra itself and what it represents. Like, for some reason, I'm just not getting along with other people. Or for some reason, I'm just not very positive on how I am personally. I feel like I'm ugly every time I look in the mirror. Well, that's your yellow ray. Or, I don't know, everybody's not being cool to me. Well, that's more your orange ray. Or, the people I love just don't seem to want to love me. Well, now you're getting up into your green ray. Maybe you got some blockages there. Your life will show it. The health in your body will show it. That's why I keep suggesting, I think studying personally about the chakras, however that might be for you, it just gives us a good blueprint for whether or not we've got stuff kind of opened up. Once you've got stuff opened up, man, you're ready to go. You're ready to go. So, I mean, keep that in mind in the big picture. All set. I got some questions, a bunch of questions, it seems. Holy crap. Started it off with question, is there a good way to track your own spiritual journey and growth? I'm assuming you mean kind of speed maybe, but I'm going to say that If nothing seems to be happening in your life and your life seems kind of boring, you're probably not pushing hard enough. If your life seems overwhelming, you're probably going as fast as you possibly can. And then there's variance in between there. But that would be my best guess on it. Best guess on it. There's not, like, because trying to compare your journey or look at it as like whether it's good or bad or anything like that, you're kind of starting to already drift in the wrong direction, if you will. Your journey's perfect. It's whether or not you're maximizing every moment of catalyst. Are you actually going, oh, this happened for a reason, why did it happen, figure that out, and then be like, oh, cool, I've internalized that. And you'll start to notice your life starts to get lighter, easier. Money will start flowing your way, maybe easier. Like, I don't know, whatever the thing is. Like, your life will just literally start to sort of get this sense of peace. So I kind of feel like that's why I keep telling people to pay attention to what you're seeing on the outside, and you'll get an assessment of what's going on the inside. It's a reflection. If you like what you're experiencing on the outside and everything seems, for the most part, awesome, you're on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing. If for some reason you're not happy or things don't seem to be going fast enough or whatever, well, there's probably more you can do. If you feel like things aren't changing quick enough in the world, it's probably because you are not making changes that are necessary. And you're refusing to, and you're slowing the progress. And so what you're seeing is your own inner self. A lot of us like to blame other people. That's the problem with the way we're programmed. We put everything outside of ourselves. When we realize that we're actually directly involved, and then we start to handle it as such, well, we take control of our lives. They don't like when that happens. That sucks. Sheila asks, question, what is the difference between social relations and universal energy? Universal energy is the energy from source, or even from sometimes a larger social memory complex, if you will, like from a galactic level. But ultimately, generally, source is the universal energy. Social relations, at least from what I'm getting from your question, social relations are the smaller sub-logos types experiences we have. So it's not that higher chakra stuff per se, but more of that influx from the lower chakra area first. But it is our experience with other people around us. And those relationships are what I call co-creation, or, co-manifesting, or whatever the case is. So those are kind of separate entities. Like when you go to universal intelligence, you're pulling down like real hardcore facts and figures. But most of the times, it's not going to be stuff in relation to does Jenny love Bobby, or how am I going to pay my bills, or anything like that. It's going to be more from the larger concept of love, light. It's going to be from the standpoint of the way our souls kind of interact and orbit each other, very similar to the way the planes and galaxies do. But when we get down into our own sub-logos, our own universe, our own planet, then we start to have more concreted, more local rules start to kick in. And then that's where those relationships, I think, the secondary one, the social relations, I think that's where that starts to come in. I hope I did justice to your question. Ruwalt77 question, what is the difference between meditation and prayer? Well, we'll talk about that. You're getting ahead of things, and that'll come up here in a second. Sheila, is seating, is it the energy level which we process the catalyst? Seating. I mean, energy level maybe, but I kind of see it more like a filter. It's the filter that we process it through. It's the lesson that's baked into it, maybe. If it's something that we've still got a blockage, then there's going to be a lesson baked into it from that level. Energy level's fair, though. I mean, it's the color, the frequency, although, I mean, yeah. But I do think it's more kind of the lesson that's there to learn. the place where we've failed ourselves or other self that we need to learn from. And so that's, I think, is kind of the key in there. Pet question. So people do meditation with visual images helps with overall consciousness. Let's see. So people do meditation with visual images helps with overall consciousness. Okay. Like if that's the way you want to go, that's fine. There's no right way or wrong way to, eat a was it the Tootsie Roll Pop, right? But no, there's people meditate two different ways. They were kind of getting into that. They're going to cover more meditation, I believe, in this next session too, as well. And I think hopefully it'll help explain some of this and the differences between. It's okay to use physical thoughts. I was just trying to point out they're two different things. There is the concept of clearing your mind, which is very important, by the way, because many of us have a lot of jumble in our mind. And learning to let jumble flow through your mind, learning to let that flow and go is powerful. It's a super important skill to learn. And so if you're not able to do that from time to time, that's something that you might want to look into. But at the same time, it's very efficacious to think of and manifest in, essentially manifest prayer is kind of similar, I think, in my opinion, where you're actually doing a focused kind of intention. And I think that's important as well. I think both are very important, and the differences between the two I don't think should be lost. So I think we got our questions covered. And let's see. Let's go ahead and fire off this next one, session 50, Law of One. And of course, you're hearing it right here on the Fringe. The Law of One, session 50, recorded May 6th, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you please give me an indication of this instrument's condition now? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. Questioner, in the last session, you made the statement that experiences are attracted to the entity through the South Pole. Could you expand on that and give us a definition of what you mean? Ra, I am Ra. It takes some consideration to accomplish the proper perspective for grasping the sense of the above information. The South, or negative pole, is one which attracts. It pulls unto itself those things magnetized to it. So with the mind-body-spirit complex, the inflow of experience is of the South Pole influx. You may consider this a simplistic statement. The only specific part of this correctness is that the red ray, or foundation energy center, being the lowest or root energy center of the physical vehicle, will have the first opportunity to react to any experience. In this way only, you may see a physical locus of the South Pole being identified with the root energy center. In every facet of mind and body, the root, or foundation, will be given the opportunity to function first. What is this opportunity but survival? This is the root possibility of response and may be found to be characteristic of the basic functions of both mind and body. You will find this instinct the strongest, and once this is balanced, much is open to the seeker. The South Pole then ceases blocking the experiential data, and higher energy centers of mind and body become available of the opportunity to use the experience drawn to it. Questioner, why do you say the experience is drawn to or attracted to the entity? Ra, I am Ra. We say this due to our understanding that this is the nature of the phenomenon of experiential catalyst and its entry into the mind-body-spirit complex awareness. Questioner, could you give us an example of how an entity sets up a condition for attracting a particular experiential catalyst and how that catalyst then is provided or is learned? Ra, I am Ra. Such an example may be given. Questioner, will you give that? Ra, I am Ra. We pause to scan this instrument's consciousness for permission to use its experiential catalyst as example. We may proceed. This is one instance, and extrapolation may be made to other entities which are aware of the process of evolution. This entity chose, before incarnation, the means whereby catalyst had great probability of being obtained. This entity desired the process of expressing love and light without expecting any return. This instrument programmed also to endeavor to accomplish spiritual work and to comfort itself with companionship in the doing of this work. Agreements were made prior to incarnation, the first with the so-called parents and siblings of this entity. This provided the experiential catalyst for the situation of offering radiance of being without expectation of return. The second program involved agreements with several entities. These agreements provided and will provide, in your time-space and space-time continuum, opportunities for the experiential catalyst of work and comradeship. There are events which were part of a program for this entity only, in that they were possibility-probability vortices having to do with your societal culture. These events include the nature of the living or standard of living, the type of relationships entered into your legal framework, and the social climate during the incarnation. The incarnation was understood to be one which would take place at harvest. These givens, shall we say, apply to millions of your peoples, those aware of evolution and desirous in the very extreme of attaining the heart of love and the radiance which gives understanding. No matter what the lessons programmed, they have to do with the other selves, not with events. They have to do with giving, not receiving, for the lessons of love are in this nature both for positive and negative. Those negatively harvestable will be found at this time endeavoring to share their love of self. There are those whose lessons are more random due to their present inability to comprehend the nature and mechanism of the evolution of mind, body, and spirit. Of these, we may say that the process is guarded by those who never cease their watchful expectation of being of service. There is no entity without help, either through self-awareness of the unity of creation, or through guardians of the self, which protect the less sophisticated mind, body, spirit from any permanent separation from unity while the lesson of your density continues. Questioner: could you give an example of negative polarization sharing love of self? It would seem to me that that would deplete negative polarization. Could you expand on that concept? Ra: I am Ra. We may not use examples of known beings due to the infringement this would cause. Thus, we must be general. The negatively oriented being will be one who feels that it has found power that gives meaning to its existence precisely as the positive polarization does feel. This negative entity will strive to offer these understandings to other selves, most usually by the process of forming the elite, the disciples, and teaching the need and rightness of the enslavement of other selves for their own good. These other selves are conceived to be dependent upon the self and in need of the guidance and the wisdom of the self. Questioner: thank you. Can you expand on the concept, which is this: that it is necessary for an entity to, during incarnation in the physical, as we call it, become polarized or interact properly with other entities, and why this isn't possible in between incarnations when he is aware of what he wants to do, but why must he come into incarnation and lose memory, conscious memory of what he wants to do, and then act in a way that he hopes to act? Could you expand on that, please? Ra: I am Ra. Let us give the example of the man who sees all the poker hands. He then knows the game. It is but child's play to gamble, for it is no risk. The other hands are known. The possibilities are known, and the hand will be played correctly, but with no interest. In time, space, and in the true color green density, the hands of all are open to see. The thoughts, the feelings, the troubles, all these may be seen. There is no deception and no desire for deception. Thus, much may be accomplished in harmony, but the mind, body, spirit gains little polarity from this interaction. Let us re-examine this metaphor and multiply it into the longest poker game that you can imagine, a lifetime. The cards are love, dislike, limitation, unhappiness, pleasure, etc. They are dealt and redealt continuously. You may, during this incarnation, begin, and we stress begin, to know your own cards. You may begin to find the love within you. You may begin to balance your pleasure, your limitations, etc. However, your only indication of other selves' cards is to look into their eyes. You cannot remember your hand, their hands, perhaps even the rules of this game. This game can only be won by those who lose their cards in the melting influence of love, can only be won by those who lay their pleasures, their limitations, there all upon the table face up and say inwardly, all of you players, each other self, whatever your hand, I love you. This is the game. To know, to accept, to forgive, to balance, and to open the self in love. This cannot be done without the forgetting, for it would carry no weight in the life of the mind, body, spirit, beingness totality. Questioner, thank you. How does the ability to hold visual images in mind allow the adept to do polarization in consciousness without external action? Ra, I am Ra. This is not a simple query, for the adept is one which will go beyond the green ray, which signals entry into the harvestability. The adept will not simply be tapping into intelligent energy as a means of readiness for harvest, but tapping into both intelligent energy and intelligent infinity for the purpose of transmuting planetary harvestability and consciousness. The means of this working lie within. The key is first, silence, and secondly, singleness of thought. Thusly, a visualization which can be held steady in the inward eye for several of your minutes as you measure time will signal the adept's increase in singleness of thought. This singleness of thought, then, can be used by the positive adept to work in group ritual visualizations for the raising of positive energy, by negative adepts for the increase in personal power. Questioner, can you tell me how the adept, then, after being able to hold the image for several minutes, what he does then to affect planetary consciousness or increase positive polarity? I still don't quite understand about this. Ra, I am Ra. When the positive adept touches intelligent infinity from within, this is the most powerful of connections for it, is the connection of the whole mind-body-spirit complex microcosm with the macrocosm. This connection enables the, shall we say, green ray true color in time-space to manifest in your time-space. In green ray thoughts are beings. In your illusions, this is normally not so. The adepts then become living channels for love and light and are able to channel this radiance directly into the planetary web of energy nexi. The ritual will always end by the grounding of the energy in praise and thanksgiving and the release of this energy into the planetary whole. Questioner, I know of people who have been recently trained in meditation who, after a very short period of intense meditation, a couple of days or so, are able to cause the action at a distance effect on metal, bending it. It is my understanding that they are wearing a pyramid-shaped wire on their heads while doing this. I was invited to one of the meditation sessions a couple of years ago, but I couldn't get there. Could you comment on this process, and if they are accomplishing anything of value or not? Ra, I am Ra. No. Please ask one more full query at this working. Questioner, could you give me more information on the energy fields of the body as relates to the right and left brain, and if this is somehow related to the pyramid shape as far as energy focusing goes? I'm a little lost at exactly how to get into this line of questioning, so I will ask that question. Ra, I am Ra. We are similarly at a loss at this time of answering. We may say that the pyramid shape is but one which focuses the instreamings of energies for use by entities which may become aware of these instreamings. We may say further that the shape of your physical brain is not significant as a shape for concentrating instreamings of energy. Please ask more specifically, if you may, that information you seek. Questioner, each of us feel in meditation energy in the head in various places. Could you tell me what this is, and what it signifies, and what the various places that we feel it signify? Ra, I am Ra. Forgetting the pyramid will be of aid to you in the study of these experiences. The instreamings of energy are felt by the energy centers which need and are prepared for activation. Thus, those who feel the stimulation at violet ray level are getting just that. Those feeling it within the forehead between the brows are experiencing indigo ray, and so forth. Those experiencing tinglings and visual images are having some blockages in the energy centers being activated, and thus the electrical body spreads this energy out, and its effect is diffused. Those not truly sincere requesting this energy may yet feel it if the entities are not well trained in psychic defense. Those not desirous of experiencing these sensations and activations and changes, even upon the subconscious level, will not experience anything due to their abilities at defense and armoring against change. Questioner. Right now I'm getting two feelings simultaneously. Is this normal to get two at once? Ra. I am Ra. The most normal for the adept is the following. The indigo stimulation activating that great gateway into healing, magical work, prayerful attention, and the radiance of being. And the stimulation of the violet ray, which is the spiritual giving and taking from and to Creator, from Creator to Creator. This is a desirable configuration. Is there a brief query before we leave this instrument? Questioner. Is there anything that we can do to make this instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra. I am Ra. You are conscientious and your alignments are careful. It would be well to take care of this instrument's neck is placed carefully upon its support. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. Yeah, so good, so good. So again, a lot of stuff covered in there. Poker. We talked about poker, like the poker game, like you understand, you know what the cards are, you know what your cards are. Like that was a really cool metaphor, worth maybe rewatching if you didn't quite get it. But one of the things that was even more amazing that they called out, and it's something that all of you need to be aware of, is the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. You look into somebody's eyes that's soulless, and you will see exactly that. Oftentimes to me it seems very black, it's weird, but there's nothing there. There's a void. Normally you see something, and it's one thing we don't actually do, typically, and look people straight in the eyes. But it is the soul's window. And if somebody questionable to you, look them in the eyes. And you'll get a feel for it. You'll get a feel for it. And you'll, maybe have to get better at, fine-tuning that for some, but for the most part, it should be pretty straightforward. You'll get it. Forgetting is needed, he was asking a question, like, why do we have to come into this reality to experience stuff that's a catalyst that's actually going to help evolve our soul? Why can't we just do that when we're in between lives or, in heaven or whatever we call it, right? And he's basically saying, forgetting is needed because you put yourself, like you've trained yourself. I've trained myself over and over. Like someone throws a punch at me, I'm gonna instantly throw a block, right? Like I'm not even thinking about it. It's just training. So you train yourself and you put yourself into a situation where you forgot you're trained. And someone walks up and starts throwing punches and all of a sudden you're like, you're like Jason Bourne, right? Like, so it's part of why we do it. We don't necessarily, and this, a lot of people are like, why can't I remember my past lives? For this reason too. Like your past lives serve the purpose of what they were. They're not here for right now. Some people, their past lives and the remembrance of them is part of this life, and that's because you're supposed to talk about, how there's multiple lives maybe, or, and so that's your way of proving it to yourself. You'll never be able to prove it to another person, by the way. Never. When he gets back into moving metal and bending metal or whatever, you can do some crazy stuff by yourself, maybe even in tiny groups, but doing it in front of everybody, well, you can mess with people's free will. If you suddenly start levitating and floating around everywhere you go, and I'm like, what the shit? Like, no, that creates a problem for me, doesn't it? I'm not saying, in reality, like if you saw you floating around, I'd be like, dude, that's so cool. Like, but a lot of people, that would break their whole world, right? They would melt down. Psychic defense is the other thing I wrote down, and I don't see any questions coming in, so you guys are running out of time, which is good. Again, this is a deep episode. There were the meditation stuff. Again, it's a deep episode, and I will answer that. What's the difference between meditation and prayer? Coming up next, if you guys didn't maybe get that answer. But psychic defense. One thing, there's a few things. All right, let's just talk about this. You as an individual, if you start spouting off to everybody all the things that you can and can't do, I'm a psychic, I'm a this, I channel, I do this, I'm a Reiki, I'm a this and that and everything. Be careful, because you put a target on yourself to be attacked. You don't have to announce all that shit. You can just be all those things and help people when the time's appropriate. You know, most of us are like, I just like want to help people. So it's not, you know, it's not the work, it's not the money. And again, it depends. Like I'm thinking of Tammy. I just used an example, and a good example, I hope. But I know she's a Reiki healer, but that's not necessarily what she does. What she does, she's tattoos. She does a lot of really cool stuff with that. Obviously helping ink people up, but also people that have lost breasts, and she helps tattoo reality into their new life where they've maybe had some help to get the breasts that have, you know, after the cancer, and they've removed them, right? Like, so they get new breasts and make them look real. And she's just, it's one of those things where you're doing the thing that you are here to do. You don't necessarily have to be, right, out there doing Reiki all the time. You don't have to necessarily be advertising it. But there's a lot of times where you get an opportunity to meet somebody, you're like, I think you're somebody that, you know, I can help. So that is part of the experience for a lot of us, right? Like as a teacher for me, I am very selective about who I take as a student, ever. And it's always been that way. It's always been for years. It's been decades at this point. And I'm not trying to be a dick. It has been. But I'm very specific about who I choose. And I won't waste my time on people that aren't ready. So I'm not a teacher. I don't run around talking about how I'm a teacher. No. I mean, I kind of do. But I don't want more students, that's for sure. My point is I try to make content. I try to help people think differently. I try to help people expand. I try to help people graduate. And I, most importantly, try to help teach the teachers of this world. And so we are able to defend ourselves from psychic attack. That was the bigger point. When we claim things, we open ourselves up to attack. And you can put a bubble around you, golden white light, always a great way to go about it. You can also understand that nobody can actually hurt you. They can cause weird experiences, and you'll see them and you'll experience them, but that's it. So there's ways you can handle it. There's a lot of people that are very empathetic or empathic, and you have to be careful too. You have to be aware of the fact that sometimes you might not want to feel everything. And so putting up blockers intentionally, I block myself. Intentionally say it. Do it. It's like, you know, many talk about, Ephesians 6:11, put on the armor of God, right? Like many, and it's not like I know just Bible verses. I just know that because it's on a t-shirt that's involved with me and the Trump assassination. But Ephesians 6:11, put on the armor of God, right? Like put on your shield if you need to. And there are times where I've done it because I'm picking up too much stuff. I'm feeling too many things. I'm getting attacked. I'm whatever. So understand, you've got all of that baked into you. There's nobody more powerful than you. Nobody. Nothing is more powerful than you. It's just an issue of getting you to realize your power. That's really what this is all about, in my opinion. It's getting a lot of people to come to those terms, I hope. Anyways, and Tattoo Tammy, I hope I didn't step on any toes. I hope I gave the respect that you deserve, because you are an amazing woman. Someone I've asked a small little issue we had in the past, that not between her and I, but something I was trying to get her to help me with, and I assume it makes almost more sense at this point in time. Ruwalt, I think this is the last question. We'll see if I get anything else. But question, how do you know if a person is really a healer? So there's a couple things. Healing's a funny thing. Jesus didn't heal everybody, by the way. He didn't heal everybody. And some of it had to do with some people aren't ready to accept healing. How do you know an individual is a healer? If you feel you need healing, first off, you've already stepped away from yourself, right? You've already stepped away from your ability to look at what's happening to your own body, your own experience, and you're now willing to place that outside of yourself. I need this outside of myself thing to fix myself, the thing I've created myself. We start losing traction from that moment forward. Now, are there healers? Yes, there are people that can help us heal if we believe that's what's necessary, for sure. And I would say, look into their eyes. See what you experience from them. How do you feel around them? If it feels groovy and good, okay, they can probably help. If they don't, they've got their own energy issues. I've known a lot of healers. Most people that are all about healing are usually pretty good energies. Otherwise, they're not really talking about it normally. I think there's a lot of people that are healers in different ways. Less advertised, if you will, and there's plenty of ways to heal people. Thought is really what it comes down to, and that's what's hard for a lot of people. A lot of people, let's just like an example really quick. Med beds. People talk about med beds. I just sit in a med bed and I can make everything better in my body. Kind of, yeah, sure. For the moment, maybe. But what created all the ailments that you're experiencing is your consciousness, your thoughts, your experiences, your deeds, the way you live and interact with this world. And if those things haven't changed, you'll almost immediately bring back that bad body. If you've healed your mind, or if you're truly someone that doesn't have, to use a loose term, sin, but if you're somebody that doesn't have all the karma associated to the injury or the sickness, if you don't have a bunch of karma attached to it, it's much easier to heal versus somebody that's got a whole crap ton of karma tied to their sickness. You can heal it and maybe make them feel better for a second, but ultimately their energy is going to bring themselves back down again. So healing's a tricky thing. It's funny how it works. And not all people are ready for it. That's the hard part. If somebody's ready, then yes, you can be a catalyst very easily. Anybody can. Anybody can, really. You don't have to have special training. That's kind of the funny part, frankly. But, there's some very cool techniques, and it helps. It helps move energy. If you can't visualize, there's a lot of aspects that I'm not going to poo-poo any of it. There's, I think, a lot of benefits to it. I think it really, truly helps you visualize the healing concept, however you learn that or come upon it. So I think that answers that pretty decently. All set, yeah. Good question, man. I love you guys. We got the same key people here, and general numbers too. I like this. This again, like I've said before, this is like double number of people we need. We've got a lot of people here that are actually making a difference in their lives and making choices, and I think that's powerful. I want to remind everyone. Someone brought it up earlier, but I think S. Honus, S. Jones 39. I think she's got something going on tonight. So if you guys want to hop over there, she's obviously a friend of the channel. All those things said, I love you guys. I hope you are gaining from this. I hope you're seeing some things in your life that you didn't see before. Don't trust me as anybody that knows anything. I'm just sharing some information. Ultimately, it matters what you experience. It matters what you see, taste, do, touch, smell. Hopefully you didn't smell too much. All said, we are changing the world. And you guys are the teachers that are showing everybody else the way. And I appreciate you guys tremendously. We couldn't do this without you. I love you guys. We are going to follow out, of course, the way we always come in with our wonderful intro, outro, / both. But it is on the Fringe. By the way, tomorrow, great music, too. For my music fans, we got awesome music. It's inspired by a guy named Ratcliffe. What the hell's his name? Dude, it's incredible. I think I got all his music. Hang on, give me 1 second. Just because some of you guys are going to be there tomorrow, too. Music Spotlight. There we go. The dude's name is Nathaniel Rateliff. Dude inspired. I was at Starbucks, heard a song, and I Shazammed it. And I was like, wow, it's a cool song. And then I found a whole crap ton of songs. This dude's done a bunch of songs. This guy's got 70, 80 songs. Man, he's got songs all over the place. So I was like, holy crap, this dude's really, really good. So anyway, he inspired the whole show. I got just a lot of music that's kind of in his genre, if you will. So it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. And I hope you guys join us for that. Same time, but it'll be tomorrow. All these things said, I appreciate you guys. And thank you for co-creating with me. And thank you guys for this journey on Law of One. Of course, where we go one, we go all. Wouldn't be the same without saying that. But yes, Law of One on the Fringe. I hope you guys have an awesome week, awesome weekend, or both, all the above, on the Fringe.
meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.